Hello, everyone. Tanya Cole-Strasbaugh here, filling in for Miss Kristina Smallhorn, who is shooting video in North Carolina. Thank you all for joining us. And on this edition of the Real Estate Whisperer, we have a wonderful guest host joining me from Kansas City. We have Mr. Jason Rains. Thank you, Eddie. Jason, welcome.
Yes. Thank you.
So this week we are discussing, is it still time to buy a house? What are we doing to get our clients, our friends, our family, people involved who need to buy a house, buying a house? So I'm going to kick it off to you, Jason. Why is it a good time to buy a house? How are you helping people get into affordable housing?
It's taken some creativity right now in Kansas City. The market's the same as it is everywhere else. Not much out there for sale, and so when it's time to be on the buy side, you just have to get creative with your offer writing.
100%. I could not agree more. I had clients getting beat out over time and time again, so I set up a special search for them to go more than 30 days, looking at houses that have been on the market for more than 30 days for a whole variety of reasons. Bad marketing, overpricing, terrible pictures, you name it, they're there. So there's still good opportunities to be had. You just have to get creative and look at those things. And Jason is a friend from Kansas City, for those of us joining us. And Jason is Mr. Zillow Gone Wild. He had the first video featured on Zillow Gone Wild, which is not affiliated with Zillow, the entity, but is rather a parody account of all sorts of crazy photos that get uploaded to Zillow. And so Jason has a bit of a creative streak. And so that is why he was featured on Zillow Gone Wild as the very first video. It was really funny because one of my colleagues, Jason, actually was like, "Can you show me this video? Can you believe this guy?" And I was like,
was so bad. It was
I know
so
that
bad.
guy. I know that guy. That guy's my friend.
It was horrible.
Oh my goodness. So for everyone joining us, remember, if you have questions for Jason and I, make sure to put question in the comments. You have to put question first so that Mr. Smallhorn can see it and field us the question. So we have some articles to discuss today. And so Eddie is going to throw them up onto the screen for us. Eddie working his magic. Okay, Market Watch, great resource. These two numbers sum up why the housing market will not get back to normal for a long time. Dun, dun, dun. Last week, this author got a letter in the mail. Like you, I'm surprised it still exists as a practice, but desperate times call for desperate measures. So this is a form of direct mail marketing. This is an agent writing to people in a particular area and espousing all the virtues of their person. So this author is saying that he showed his wife the letter and joked that they should ask for 20% premium over the current value. It's a big round number, but it's essentially useless. Why? They have to live somewhere. Yes. 85% or more of sellers are buyers. So even if they were able to secure a much higher selling price, it wouldn't help them all that much at all. The author of this Market Watch article already has a 3% mortgage rate locked in, and they have a decent chunk of equity in the home and are desperate. Ooh, ouch. Realtor alluded in their letter it would be nearly impossible to find another house to buy. So the combination of rising home prices, low mortgage rates that are locked in by current homeowners, and low supply make it unappealing to sell their house and look for another one right now. So Altos Research has a handy dandy chart for us just to show us what the housing supply situation is like. Yes, I actually screenshotted this and sent this to clients throughout the week. Oh my gosh. So total inventory in the U.S. for sale is in July of 2015 was 1.2 million units. And now in January 2022, you can see is 271,000. So a combination of historic low interest rates and historic low inventory is contributing to what we have going on right now. Is there anything more in that article, Eddie? Yep. Mm-hmm. It's like doubling up. The homeowner goes to buy the next home, move up or move down. And because mortgages are so cheap, it's a good time to keep the first one as a rental unit. So each year they go to buy another house and keep this first one. And that's a big phenomenon. All of a sudden, I'm a real estate investor. Did you know? Ooh, scroll back up a little bit. So in the past decade, 8 million homes have come out of the resale cycle and moved them into the investment rental part of the pool. And that's, 9% of all the single family houses. I'm guilty of this. I'm guilty of the first townhouse that my husband and I bought in 2016, turning it into a rental property. So I know that everyone wants to complain about BlackRock buying all the homes in this country, but 90% of the rental units are owned by individuals in the United States. Whew. Okay, Jason. Comments,
Yeah,
thoughts.
I don't have any rental properties, but I have friends that have done the same thing that you did and had townhomes that they lived in. I mean, the second place I lived in after I graduated college, that person that I was a roommate with owned the townhome, and he still owns the townhome to this day, in addition to a few more townhomes, and rents them out, but he doesn't live in any of those. So, I mean, it happens. Most of the clients I work with don't do that, but I do have a handful that do. So, I mean, I can see where they're going with this. I think later in the article, it actually talks about uh, the lack of building new construction, where that has also led to. So I think that in my opinion, I think that might be a bigger problem than people holding on to their first homes, is just the lack
Yep.
of new construction, to where people can't sell their home and move into a new construction home like they may have in the past, which then frees up houses for people that are wanting them to move into. So it's a
100%.
pretty vicious cycle.
It is. It is. CC Moon, thank you for the super chat. Have you guys had luck with plumbing costs with a homeowner's claim? For example, a sewer pipe burst, asking for a friend. Oh, CC. Okay, this is going to come down to your coverage rider. So, for example, if the sewage is backing up into the basement, then you need to have that form of coverage. If it is outside the home, it needs to be underground utility coverage that covers the sewer. This is for Pennsylvania only. I have dealt with this so it depends on what your coverage and your policy looks like, but it's two separate situations. So if it backs up into the house, it's one coverage. If it's out in the yard / the tie-in, it's a different form of coverage. But the traditional answer is yes. And then look at those riders. Jason, how about in KC?
Yeah, we have the same. Again, inside it's more of a homeowner's policy. Outside, here in Kansas City, the homeowner is actually responsible from the house to where the sewer line connects with the city main, and they do have additional coverage that covers that outside portion from the house to the city main. So just kind of depends on what the coverage is.
Sure. Great question. Sorry you're dealing with that. I had heard from a client earlier this week who bought a house and his water line was broken. Thankfully, he reached out to me and I said, "Where is it?" And I sent him to the insurance agent and he said, "I
Yeah.
didn't even know I had this coverage." And I was like, "That's because I sort of made that decision for you."
Well, and I think as a way to kind of look into the future on what may happen before you buy, obviously inspections are a whole separate topic right now. But your sewer line inspection, at least here, is not covered by a normal home inspector. So you, during your, again, different term for different areas, we call it the inspection period here. You can do any inspection. Some places call it due diligence, whatever you call it. You can do any inspections you want during that time period. And here you can hire a plumbing company to come in and run a camera from the house all the way out to where it connects with the city main. And that gives you an idea if you may have problems in the near future. Obviously, extended future, who knows? But it at least gives you peace of mind that there's no problems when you're buying the home.
Right. Yep. I had the ignoble honor of being the first Pittsburgh real estate entity or person to have a shared recorded sewer maintenance agreement. Bleh. And so
Nice.
I was doing sewer scopes or sewer cameras before they were fashionable. So just tricks of the trade.
Yes.
Eddie, do we have a hello? Jerry Prusa question. Should a young couple buy a house in an area they are not sure they will be staying long term? Basically, he's there to get his degree, then not sure. That's a great question. So I like to look at it as, are they going to be staying there at least 3 years? And are they purchasing smart? So are they purchasing a home that they have the opportunity to have equity into? So I've helped people buy and sell a house within a 3-year time period. And I've heard, we didn't make any money. And I'm like, okay, so let's reframe the question. Did you A, not make any money, or did you B, just live for free or almost free for 3 years?
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
if you're paying rent and you're paying, let's just say round number, $1,000 a month for 3 years, are you $36,000 in the hole, or are you $0 in the hole? And suddenly you
Correct.
actually profited that amount of money.
Yeah.
So Jerry, that's a great
Yeah.
question. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like that analogy, definitely. People are talking about interest rates lately, and I saw something on social media lately from a few of my friends that said, whether you're paying 3, 4, or 5% interest rate on your home, just remember the interest rate on a rental is 100%, right? You're making no equity on the rental, so that's definitely something to take in consideration. Then, and I think that you have to look at forecasting and what is the market projected to do in that area over the next 2 to 3 years.
Yep.
And are you overpaying, quote unquote, overpaying for a house that's going to take 3 years to catch up in that equity, or are you getting a pretty good deal for it? So there are still good deals out there. So
Yep, absolutely. And if the market is appreciating at 3% annually after 3 years, there we go. Thank you, Eddie. Buying your first home can be one of the most important transactions that you will ever make. Taking the time to answer some questions will make sure that you are truly ready to buy, and also figure out whether you need to make financial changes before the big move. Ideally, you should stay in a home for at least 3 to 5 years to break even on your mortgage. I agree with that. I would argue 3 years if you're buying strategically, and then to recoup those transfer taxes, real estate fees, title insurance premiums. Your mortgage payment should be 25% or less of your pre-tax income. That can be hard for some people. It depends where you are. It also depends on your childcare costs. If your childcare costs are non-existent, then some people push that 25% up. Have savings to cover emergency repairs before you buy a home. I strongly recommend always having a home warranty, and working with a home warranty company that if you put in a claim and something happens, reach out to your real estate agent and they will run it up the chain, aka they will shake down the home warranty company for you to get it covered.
correct. Going back just a little bit, I think the caveat to that 3 years is: are you buying an existing home, or are you buying new construction? Historically, new construction takes longer to appreciate. So
Yes.
if you're looking at buying a new construction home and you're not going to be there very long, that might not be the way to go if you're looking to have a return on your investment. So might be better in that instance to buy a pre-existing home versus new construction home.
I agree with that. That's a smart distinction to make, Jason. Absolutely. Question, Karen Gieb. In the city nearest me, 100,000 population, there are currently only 168 listings, including commercial. Oof, sounds about right. How out of whack is that? I tried to Google it, but no luck. It is super out of whack. And I'm going to field it to Jason in a minute. In Metro Pittsburgh, 40% of all the real estate is sold off market. Now, still 98% of that 40% is sold with a real estate agent who is facilitating that transaction on one side or both sides. So Karen, now more than ever, I don't know what your 100,000 city looks like, but having a local expert that can connect you to those off-market properties is really critical. It is, of course, a nationwide shortage. We're not questioning that. We showed a graph, but there are creative solutions to finding more opportunities out there. Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I literally just looked up some numbers before we came on.
Mm-hmm.
Our MLS, our multiple listing service covers 39 counties across 2 states. I mean, it goes
Mm-hmm.
all the way from Iowa, almost all the way down to Arkansas, and then just
Mm-hmm.
a little bit into Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, like as of right before we went live, we had 2,544 houses. That's it for 39 counties. In the fall,
Wow.
just for comparison, in the fall, we were at 4,000. So we're down 40% just from the fall of 2021, just in the last few months. So it's it's definitely low. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's some ways to find those off market properties. That letter you mentioned at the beginning, that is one way. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've gone door to door in a neighborhood a client wanted to be in and knocked on every door in the neighborhood with the versus mailing the letter, literally handing a similar letter to the person that answered the door. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but we're starting to see a lot of houses go. So here we have what's called coming soon or pre-MLS.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so agents can market the property before it ever even goes on to officially on the market and hits all those third-party websites that a lot of people are looking at to find homes. And we're seeing more and more of those go under contract before they ever come on the market.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's
but
absolutely the
that's
case.
allowed in some markets and not allowed in others. So it just depends on the market you're in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like coming soon because frankly, people are like, I'm going to sell my house. And I'm like, okay. But then there are certain steps, to get the house cleaned and
Yep.
painted and ready. And
Pictures
that,
and all that.
of course, of course. And that takes time to do it right.
Yep.
So, Eddie, may we be fielded another question, please? Question, Mike Lentz. If the Federal Reserve increases interest rates, when, in my opinion, what are the short-term implications to the housing market? Should first-time home buyers wait to see what happens to the market? Jason, I'll let you take that one.
Thank you. I agree. I do think that pretty much inevitable that rates are going to be going up. They have been going up over the past month or so. I think we're going to see that continue a little bit. In my opinion, if you're thinking about buying, that means buy sooner rather than later. If interest rates are going to continue to rise, obviously we don't know how high they're going to go. But personally, I would rather spend money on the actual house than have that money go towards the interest rate. So I would like to buy at a lower interest rate, even if that means paying a little bit more for the same house versus
Mm-hmm.
paying a lower price with a higher interest rate. Again, more of that
Mm-hmm.
money is going towards the actual house versus towards the interest. But really, if we dive down into it, short-term implications, I don't see it making much of a difference in the market as far as
Mm-hmm.
prices are concerned. I think the majority of it just comes down to lack of inventory, and
Yep.
it's going to take a long time for us to catch up to where we need to be versus where we are right now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely agree. Eddie, thanks for throwing that up. What to expect from the housing market now that the Fed has signaled rate hikes? If you plan to buy a house in 2022, the good news is conditions won't rapidly get out of control the way they did last year. The bad news is the supply remains tight and prices are still on an upswing. Intense multiple offer days are over. People can take their time, says Lawrence Yun, chief economist of National Association of Realtors.
I don't see that in my market right now, anyway. Maybe as the
Mhm.
rates go up, we might see a change, but it's not that way right here in Kansas City right now. So,
Mhm. Mike, I will also say that anytime that people, especially first-time home buyers, if you are there's a move-up home buyer, traditionally people own 3 properties throughout their life: their starter home, their move-up home, and their sort of not retirement home, but their single level condo, things like that, their third home for their later stage in life when the kids have flown the coop. And so when you're a first-time home buyer trying to get your foot into the market, if you were trying to time the market 2 years ago, you've seen that double-digit appreciation, and it hasn't been a valuable lesson to try and time the market or wait for the market. So there's no expectation prices will fall, and our forecast suggests that price appreciation will slow, says Doug Duncan, Senior Vice President, Chief Economist at Fannie Mae. Duncan predicted while prices won't repeat the meteoric 18% increase they sustained last year, they will still rise somewhere in the neighborhood of 7.5%. So that's not much of a breather, especially because interest rates will be rising at the same time.
Yeah, our market's expected to do a 9.2% increase over
Yes.
2022. So pretty, I mean, a little bit higher than 7.5, but again, over 39 counties, a lot of those are going to be smaller. Some will be much larger than that. So that's an
Yes.
average for our market. So
Yeah, and for CC Moon, hello, good question. Thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Question: have you guys dealt with foundation settling and adding piers? Yes. Getting a registered engineer,
yes.
pray for me, y'all. Yes, I have dealt with that.
Yes.
For not myself personally, I've had wall anchors, but not piers. So as long as you're getting good information, it's obviously not a problem that happens instantaneously. It's not like an insurance claim, CC. So take that time and weigh your experience and your situation, Jason.
Yeah, I think definitely find a structural engineer that has experience in your area and is highly recommended. I think that's number one. Foundation companies are great, but they're also making money on fixing your house. So I would
Mm-hmm.
rather have a structural engineer come in and give me a non-biased opinion on what needs to be done to make the foundation safe, and then go out to foundation companies and get bids from them.
Yep.
So, and are we talking piers or are we talking braces? Because those are two different things that both can correct your foundation. So I think it's getting the right recommendation and then getting the price from multiple people to see what's needed done.
That's a great answer, Jason. That's very detailed and thorough. Thank you. All right, Eddie, Mr. Smallhorn. What more questions do our viewers have for us? SS, home purchase less than 90 days. FHA requires a 90-day period after the property can be sold. Correct. An FHA contract is drawn up before the time limit and a home inspection is done. What is the buyer to do now? Jason, I'm going to field it to you.
Well, so, and
It
I'm going to
sounds like
answer
it's
a
a home
question.
flipper.
I'm going to ask. Well, yeah. I mean, so who's SS? Are we the purchaser or are we the home flipper? That's part of it. But I almost have a question for the question. When is it closing? Because that's the key to the 90 days. It can't close within a 90-day period, right? I'm actually have an FHA buyer under contract right now, and we're past the 90-day period, but the home went up more than 100% in value from the previous home flipper to what my client is buying it for, and not paying a ton. I know 100% sounds like a lot, but a lot of times, like I tell my buyers, you don't know what condition or circumstances the previous seller bought it in. So please try not to pay a lot of attention to what the home was purchased prior to you purchasing it. There's just too many variables there. But so we're having to do a second inspection, or not inspection, sorry, we're having to do a second appraisal in order to justify the first appraisal since it went up more than 100%. So
Right.
yeah.
FHA
But I don't
contract
think
submitted,
inspections, I
inspection
don't think
done, and
inspections don't really have anything to do with this. I think it's more of the 90-day rule and the appraisal piece of that versus the inspection piece.
sure. SS is the buyer, and it says
Okay.
that they had the contract before the 90-day waiting period. Is the buyer out the inspection cost? I am the buyer.
I mean, is there a way to push again, are you closing within the 90 days or is the close set before the 90 days? And if it's before the 90 days, do you still want the house? If you don't, technically you have an appraisal issue and I mean, that's part of most contracts. The appraisal contingency is part of the deal. Or if you still want the house, can you push the closing date back and still get the house like on day 91?
Right.
Tanya, are you seeing, like, is that what you're seeing?
I haven't seen that, to be honest. I've seen the contractor shortage in Pittsburgh is such that the flippers or redevelopers are taking at least 4 months, if not 6
Yeah.
months to.
Yeah.
In fact, I have a client that really wants a property that has a lovely property that has a burst pipe in it, and they remediated the damage and they shut off the water, but they haven't actually redone the plumbing area, and so therefore a VA and an FHA buyer can't buy it. And from their perspective, they're like, why aren't they doing it? Why aren't they? Well, they have other properties and they
Yeah.
have other things going on. And
Yeah.
so they'll get to it when they get to it. But it's not going to be in that 90 days. So I haven't seen that transpire.
Yeah.
I
I'm seeing
agree
more
with
of
you.
the appraisal aspect than the 90-day window, but not saying it doesn't happen. I mean, depends how quickly you get a property done. I mean, is it, I have a client right now that's getting ready to close on an off-market property here in about a week and a half, and they're just gonna, they got a good deal on an off-market property, and they're gonna put new carpet and new paint in and turn right around and sell it. That should not take 90 days.
Right.
That should only take max 30 if they can find the paint, because
Right.
there's paint shortage also. Like
I called
anything, right?
I called 5 different Sherwin-Williams to
See?
get paint for
Yeah.
my house and my listing, and my it was so funny that the owner was so appreciative. He's like, "Oh my gosh, there's this nationwide paint shortage." And I was like, "Oh, but I got it there in 2 days." What he didn't know, and I later told him, was that I cobbled it together from 5 different Sherwin-Williams stores.
Yeah, I mean, do what you got to do, right? But in that instance, she's not gonna be able to sell to an FHA or VA. It just won't pass. So
No.
then we're looking at just conventional or cash offers on that one. So
E can't cur. Question: I have 5 rentals in Sedona, Arizona. I'd like to sell. Should I sell my current home and then move into each one of these rentals for 3 years and then sell one property at a time to avoid excess taxes? That is a great question. And what you are referring to is the IRS rule, colloquially known as 24 in 60. So, in order to avoid capital gains tax, that's only federal income tax, a person, an individual, couple has to reside in a property for 24 months of the last 60 months of ownership in order to avoid capital gains tax. So, because you have 5 rentals, I would reach out to Kristina at her website and ask her for her Sedona contact, and she will hook you up with someone who can do the tax structured situation. So, in the next 10 years, inevitably the tax law could change, and you'd have this situation going, and then you wouldn't be able to capitalize on it. So yes, right now that's possible to do the 24 and 60, but that very well could change in those step up values. And there is a limit. I believe it's 250 for a single tax filer and 500 for married filing jointly tax status. Jason, did you have anything to answer on that front?
that was great. That was more detailed than I was going to go into. But I will say also, like, with the 24 months, no, we don't know what the market's going to be in 10 years. So
Yeah.
not only will tax laws change, but
Mm-hmm.
will property values be what they are now and increasing, or are we going to have a repeat of 07, 08, 09 and property values go down? 10 years from now is a long time to try to forecast, to have any idea of what's going on. So I think you just have to make a determination on what's best for you right now, and then just go with that. So
right. And you need a tax planner, someone, an attorney and or a CPA that deals with this. They're probably going to, depending on your state too, because there's also state income tax that may be at play, local income tax that may be at play. They would need to possibly put it into a trust and step up value. And so as one of my dear friends who's an attorney always says, that's a great question, and it depends. Which always leaves me so frustrated.
Yes. But 1031 is always an option also. Sell all 5 properties and roll all that money into one property. Now you're down from 5 rentals into 1 rental, and you avoid the tax implications on that possibly as well. I don't know all the rules on that, but I know that's a possibility as well. So something for you to check with your attorney about. How about that?
And if you need someone in Sedona, reach out to Kristina so she can hook you up. Eddie, may we have a question from our lovely audience? Ms. Nelson, question: what are your thoughts on Santander getting out of the mortgage business?
I'm gonna give this one to you.
Um, I don't have a lot of thoughts. So the
I don't know.
reason, whenever insurance and mortgage, I always refer people to independent brokers because they deal with 30 some different carriers. So rather than going to like an insurance company or a mortgage company that you see on a billboard, going to somebody local because they price compare. They have multiple underwriters. They have 30 different outlets that they can shop your rate around, and they're going to work with you every step of the way because they live in your neighborhood, they pay taxes, they send their kids to school there. So I'm not really worried about one company getting out of the mortgage business because there's local lenders aren't really affected by that. But that's a great question.
No, and when we're talking about purchasing, I 99.9% of the time I recommend highly to my buyers to reach out to a local lender. In this competitive market, which we're all in, if you get into a multiple offer situation, the listing agents want to see almost every time a local lender versus a large national lender being used. At least
Mm-hmm.
here in Kansas City, that's true. So
Mm-hmm. Definitely, it's definitely true in Pittsburgh. They're not going to, bounce you from the website and whatnot. So
yeah.
question, perhaps more of a statement, but maintenance and taxes and other ownership fees should be considered with rent versus own. Properties with deferred maintenance don't always go up in value. I completely concur. 100% concur. They have to be factored in. There's also a phenomenon that is known as house forced savings. So when people buy houses, they actually force themselves to save money because their lifestyle changes. When they buy property, their lifestyle changes and they actually start to make budgets, make written budgets, and account for those sorts of things. Jason?
Yeah, same. I think when we're talking apples to apples here, I think you'd have to look at and not properties with deferred maintenance. Obviously, if you're looking at a property with deferred maintenance, how much is it going to cost to bring that up to where it needs to be?
Mhm.
Um, that can vary from a couple $1,000s to six figures,
Mhm.
depending on how bad the property is. But not looking at that, but more of what you said, Tanya. Um, you know, what is the budget for keeping up a house,
Mhm.
and what are we paying in rent? So is the mortgage payment plus what we need to upkeep the house less than what we're paying in rent? And if
Mhm.
that's yes, then is it really an issue, or are we making it an issue?
Mhm. Correct. Or is it an issue? Or are we making it an issue? And that's also assuming we're the question has the underlying premise that rent is going to stay fixed. And we know that rents are going to rise 7.5% this year.
Up. Yep. Yeah, they're going up just like everything else.
I saw in the comments someone was saying their rent was going up and their salary isn't. It wasn't formed in a question, but I saw that and I was like, yes,
Yeah,
you're that is a reality that we're dealing with.
absolutely.
Bliss, why don't realtors offer better commissions when they have the potential to sell two and buy one? That is sell two and buy one. Would that mean sell two properties and buy another property? Or is it selling one house and like the move up house? Jason, do you want to take that question just in
Well,
general? Why don't
yeah, I'm not sure what the sell to is. Yeah, I don't. I think that would have an effect on the answer. Obviously, um, there is no set commission. That is
Mhm,
the answer. It's actually a anti-Sherman trust violation to have a
mhm,
set commission. So I don't get into commission talks a lot in
mhm,
in a public forum because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole and have somebody say something I didn't intend to say. But I think every market's different, and I think that
mhm,
you need to, whatever realtor you are talking to, you need to figure out what their value proposition is, what they bring to the table, and
mhm,
is it in your best interest to use someone who offers steep discounts but you get less
mhm,
service, or um, pay more of whatever your average
mhm,
rate is in your market? I don't know, because it's different everywhere. pay the average rate in your market, and get higher service and potentially higher home sale. Realize that on the buying side, typically, this can change. This is not 100%, okay? Typically on the buy side, buyers historically do not pay commissions. Historically, they come from the seller's proceeds. But again, that can vary in every market, and it can
Sure.
vary from home to home. So
It
there's
does.
no right answer here.
Right. And to be honest, I always, whenever I'm asked about commissions, I'm very frank and I say, I'm not a Walmart realtor. I provide more of a concierge experience, and very specifically, I can point them to recent buyers who have bought under the property's appraised value, and sellers for whom I've set neighborhood records for price per
Yep,
square foot. And that is not to say there are Walmart realtors out there, and obviously Walmart does a lot of business, and that business model works for some people, like charging flat
absolutely.
fees. That's not my business model, and that is not what my clients are looking for. So it's really sort of a conversation.
Yep.
Just because I sit down with someone doesn't mean that I necessarily want to work with them. It's that we
Or
both have
that
to
we're
want
a
to work
good,
together.
or that we as real estate agents are a good fit for that person. They might
Right.
hate our style and not like what
Hmm.
we have to say, and we might not click. Our personalities might not click,
Hmm.
and they may decide that it's better to go a different route, and that's fine. That's fine.
Hmm.
There's a lot of real estate agents out there.
Hmm.
There's someone for everybody. So
There's many fish in the sea.
yes. Hopefully that answers the question.
Justin Jones. So do you guys think they will follow through on interest rate hikes? Yes. I don't believe they will ever reach 4%. I think that they will, Justin. Evergan, what do you guys think? I think that it's a matter of time. It is. It's a matter of time. All things that go
Well,
down must come up. They're historically low.
and I know 4% sounds high because what, like, I don't know, 18 months ago we were talking like 2.5% interest
Correct.
rates. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so yes, 4% is quite a bit higher than 2.5. But you got to remember, like, and yet I don't know what everybody's age is here that's watching this. I'm in my early 40s. My parents in the 80s were paying
Mm-hmm. Yep.
18% interest rates. So
Yep.
4% compared to what they were 40 years ago is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely nothing. So I think consumers and home buyers have just got used to like pretty much free money at this
Mm-hmm.
point, at
Mm-hmm.
2.5, 3%. So
My parents bought their house in 86 before, when they were cooking me, and she actually pulled up a slip. It was something insane, like 16 or 18%. I was like,
yeah,
and yet people say, is it a good time to buy a house? They still needed a house. They were pregnant
people
with
still
their
bought.
first child. They still needed a house. They still needed somewhere to live.
Yeah.
National average weekly mortgage rates. Thank you, Eddie. 3.77. Bank rate average is 3.16. 30-year
Yeah.
fixed, 15-year fixed, it's 3.15. And the bank rate average is 2.48. 10-year fixed is 3.18. Mm-hmm. So Justin, I would love for rates to stay low for a while, but I don't, and to clarify, I believe any rate below 6% is low, but I do believe before the end of the year we're going to hit 4%. I do.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Killeen, one question. Even if the suctional issues are in the past 3 or 4 years, how the heck do you work around them? Like two boat or buckled? Oh,
Structural issues. I think we're doing
structural
structural
issues.
issues.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Like two boat or buckled walls and a buckled floor in the basement. Strongly suggest paying a structural engineer out of pocket. In Pittsburgh, they're about $150, and they give you a written analysis of their
Yep.
suggestions, and then you take that to the basement companies in your area and see what the timeline is for them doing things, what their warranty they offer, costs involved, things like that.
And bowed buckled walls does not sound good. Buckled basement floor, I mean, I would almost need to see a picture of it. Concrete cracks. I mean, that's what it's made to do. It cracks. But if we're actually talking about like upheaval or like bowing in, we definitely have some issues there, and definitely need to get that checked out by a structural engineer to figure out what's needed to make your home safe.
Why? Yeah. Why with the floor? Typically, I've seen it has been water coming up through the
Mhm.
bottom. I haven't seen it for just general other reasons so
Yeah.
far. So I wish you luck. Keep us posted. Come back next week and update us after
Yes.
you have the engineer come in. Question, Harry, predictions for home prices gonna high. I assume you mean our home price is going to continue to rise? Yes, but not at the
Yes.
rate, I believe, not at the rate that they were in 2021. They are going to be more measured, more concerted, but they are going to increase. Jason?
Uh, I hope that's the answer, right?
Mhm.
I do think that. I think right now, where we are on February 6th, to me, this market is crazier than it was in the fall and summer of last year. Like, I'm
Mhm.
just seeing crazy stuff going on right now in order to, um, it, crazy stuff that's being done to get
Mhm.
houses under contract.
Mhm.
And I thought the fall and summer of last year were crazy, but like this seems even crazier than what was going on last year. So I hope as the historic quote unquote spring market hits and we see an increase of houses coming
Mhm.
on the market in spring and summer, hopefully that kind of tailors back a little bit and we can level out
Mhm.
and not see homes go as high or
Mhm.
increase in value as fast as we did last year.
Mhm. What I'm seeing is the blue ribbon school districts there's still a lot of competition. Those
Mm,
A-list premium school districts, single family homes, 3 and 4 bedrooms, but 2 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, townhouses are a much more spread out. Again, we're not talking 30 days on market necessarily, but we're also not talking 75 offers in 24 hours. You can get in the first week and you can make an offer in the first week that it's on the market
same,
and go from there. Mhm.
same. Yep. And sometimes that depends, not even city to city, sometimes neighborhood to neighborhood. It literally can come down to
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
neighborhood you are in. So
Mhm.
again, I agree with what you're saying, Tanya, but I think there's a lot of variables there that make that question hard to answer specifically, not knowing where they're at. So
Right, right. It's so contingent. Bliss, can you explain capital gains? Sure.
Tanya, take it.
So on the sale of
No,
your non-primary home, so your rental property, inherited property, also like this is most common for people's capital gains, inheritance taxes, and the capital gains rates are, I want to say, 15% and 25%. It depends what tax bracket you are in. And they are due not from your closing costs, but they are due on your taxes later that year. And oftentimes the title company will advise you of that, or if you're dealing with an estate attorney, due to the passing of a loved one or relative, they will also say, hey, set aside a portion of these proceeds for those capital gains. And they do need to budget into, especially if it's shared proceeds in a family, and if you're selling your own personal property, if it's owner occupied for at least 24 of the last 60 months, so 2 in the last 5 years, then you are exempted from capital gains. You will put it on your personal income tax. You will get a statement from your title company or your title attorney that you turn in as part of your taxes, so they know that a home was bought or sold, but that those proceeds are exempted from those taxes.
Yes.
Harry, predictions for home prices gonna high. I think we already answered that they are going to increase, but not at the rates that we were seeing in 2021. Remember to put question in the chat before your question so that we can make sure we can see it, and our lovely behind the scenes guru Eddie Smallhorn can throw it up for us. Peter, question: with so much debt, why do you believe that rates will go up? How far can they raise them? And will it have an impact on inflation? In 2018, only got to a Fed funds rate of 2.5. That's a great question. Jason, you wanna field it?
I don't know. um, are we talking so much debt like we're talking national debt? Is that what we're referring to? I assume that's what we're referring to, right? Um, I think that raising the rates is, in my opinion, the Fed trying to raise or raising the rates, they're trying to rein in this crazy housing
Mhm.
market that we're seeing, right? So historically, as rates go up, the desire to buy goes
Mm-hmm.
down and allows inventory to catch up with the demand that we're seeing, right? So by
Mm-hmm.
raising the rate, less people want to buy, homes continue to come on the market, new
Mm-hmm.
construction homes are continuing to be built, and
Yep.
hopefully they can use that to level out the supply versus demand
Mm-hmm.
issue. So how far can they raise them?
Mm-hmm.
They were
Mm-hmm.
18% back in the 80s. So, I mean, I don't think we'll get that high by any means. I don't think we'll get anywhere near that, but I mean, they can go as high as they want them to go,
Sure,
really.
sure. And Peter added all debt, individual, corporate, and government. So, Peter, that's a great addendum. In terms of individual debt, the underwriters, since I believe it was February of 2020, before Rona, they have been weighing consumer debt differently. So, consumer debt is all non-mortgage debt. So, you got your furniture debt, your car debt, your vehicle debt, your anything, credit cards, things
Loan
like that.
debt, credit card debt.
So now they're weighing student loans differently. So student loans do not have the same value on your debt to income equation as does your other consumer loan debt. So that is a big reason why there are so many more people available to buy houses, specifically millennials, because they're able to actually buy a house. I had many people sitting on the sidelines for years, great income earners, but they had serious student loan debt. And when those underwriters came around to weighing it differently, they came back into the market in a way that they hadn't been able to buy a house to begin with, period.
And when inventory's down and now we have more people wanting to buy,
Yes.
that creates even a more of a disproportionate ratio. So
Correct. Correct. We have more demand, we have less supply, we have low rates. Those are three factors. We have a shortage of building materials, we have a shortage of contractors for a whole variety of reasons. This is a perfect storm, not to scare people, but this is a
well,
perfect storm. This is why it's not going away anytime soon.
and Tanya, back on that building supply, I actually looked this up right before we came on.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 10 years, we have the fewest number of new construction builds that we have
Mm-hmm.
had since 1930 to 1939.
Mm-hmm.
Lowest in 90
Mm-hmm.
years. So from 2010 to 2019, 5.8 million homes, new construction homes were built.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
from 1950 to '09, that
Mm-hmm.
number was never below 20 million ever.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So in 60 years, that number did not go below 20 million, and now we're at under 6 for the
Yep.
last 10 years. So
It's unbelievable. I did a switcheroo. How did I switch? Oh, because my seat. Yes, I'm in Kristina's hot seat. Marcel has not bothered me yet. I've been looking around if anybody's I'm like, look at where'd he go? Where'd he go? But yes, I'm in Kristina's seat, which is very comfy. Oh my goodness. It is like I want to sit back and kick back and relax. Crow Homestead, why do those hoping for a crash expect to be able to buy a home if that happens? That's a great question, Crow. That's smart, because if there's a crash, that means that there's structural issues in the economy and people are losing jobs, and therefore, how are they going to buy a house?
I think some people will be able to buy a house, right? I think your first time home buyers, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
But others that have more stable jobs,
Mm-hmm.
have more disposable income, are
Mm-hmm.
already investing in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we saw last time in the last market crash. Those are the people that went out
Mm-hmm.
and bought a ton of homes very quickly in
Yep.
order to increase what they already had. That
Yep.
doesn't help first time home buyers at all.
No,
So,
not
or
at
people
all.
with lower paying jobs or not um, as stable of jobs.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That have to undergo something called manual underwriting when you have when you have non-traditional income. Manual underwriting, so important to have a local mortgage broker that will pour over your bank statements with you to get you underwritten. So good question. Thanks, Crow. Mr. Smallhorn, bring me a question. Dun, 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 dun. Debbie Brady, thank you. What is your opinion of the Redfin model? Jason, I'll kick it to you.
I mean, so we're basically just talking online brokerages. Like, is that? I assume that's what we're referring to. I think that goes back to one of the previous questions where we talked about what level of service is best for you.
Right.
Some online brokerages discount what they charge, not only to the seller to sell the house, but also
Mm-hmm.
discount what they're offering on the buying side.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in some situations that might be beneficial to you or might be what you are looking for. I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
case by case basis, and interview those people and interview several local real estate agents
Mm-hmm.
and again, I go back to that value proposition. Look at that value proposition. What are they offering? What does their marketing entail? Are they just
Mm-hmm.
taking some photos with their cell phone and throwing them in the MLS?
This is Jason's number one pet peeve.
So bad, you guys, so bad. Um, or and just throwing a sign in the yard, or are we going to the extreme on marketing and really
Yep.
getting more
Mm-hmm.
people, getting the house in front of more people, which tends to lead them to more offers, really. I mean, the more
Yep.
people that can see the house, the more offers you typically get. So,
I'll be Debbie. At least in my market, the Redfin model, they're paid a flat salary. So there's no marketing instruction. There's no creativity in terms of social media. There's no justification for the price point. It's very easy to justify, what commission rates I offer is because I have the background to prove it. And Jason is the same. Those business models do not threaten me whatsoever because they're
yeah.
not in the sphere of where I am. I've never lost a listing to the Redfin model. So good question though.
Yeah.
Do Eddie.
I love Debbie's answer. She said, yes, thanks for the answer. I'll use the realtor that sold me my home. She's excellent and worth the commission. Great,
Mm-hmm.
great.
Question SS, is it true that all homes in Florida are sold in as is condition and the sellers are not required to make any repairs to see the home?
I got this one. I'm
Okay.
not in Florida, but I have a lot of friends in Florida that sell real estate, and
Uh-huh.
I think it's very similar to any market that you're talking about, wherever you are, SS or here in Kansas
Mm-hmm.
City or in Pittsburgh or
Mm-hmm.
down in Louisiana. It's pretty much the same everywhere. There is no cut and dry answer here. I think that the harder the market is, or the more competitive the market is,
Mm-hmm.
one of the tools to use in the toolbox to make your offer stand out is to take a home in as quote unquote as is condition. We call it here in its present condition. There are multiple layers of in its
Mm-hmm.
present condition. Here you can do inspections and walk away based on the results, but the seller's not going to make repairs. The
Mm-hmm.
second one is you can do inspections for informational purposes only, but you cannot walk away. Regardless of what the results find.
Mm-hmm.
Or the third is you waive all rights to inspections, right? And I think that's just a conversation for you to have with whatever realtor you're working with, and based on your market. You might even put in, hey, we won't ask for repairs unless they are X amount of money, and that way, if they're over five, for example, over $5,000, you're not tied to taking the home if something catastrophic is found that's going to cost a ton of money
Right.
after closing.
Mm-hmm. That's a great answer, Jason, because frankly, all the clients that I have are buying condos for which that's not, and there are no inspections because all that there are that they own or maintain are their kitchen appliances.
Yeah.
So it's like, it is what
Yeah.
it is. We want to see those HOA docs before that's what we
Yeah.
want to
That's a
get into
whole
the weeds about.
definition right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are the appraisers overlooking the neighborhood comps just to get the loans approved, not taking into consideration the actual worth of the home? That's a great question. And no, because the appraisers that did that in 08 to 2010 are in jail right now. They are in prison. So that is not happening. Appraisers take their job very seriously. They have national and state licenses, excuse me, And if you are trying to set a market record, you have to, as a real estate agent, as a listing agent, you have to be willing to go through a very exhaustive set of criteria in order to set a neighborhood record. And you have to explain yourself and articulate it and be willing to fight for why you're setting a neighborhood sales price per square foot record. Not that any of us in this conversation have done that and lived to tell. So no, appraisers that manipulated their approval ratings, they went to jail, and the ones that are left are scared to go to jail and they want to do the right thing.
Well, and I think part of that too is back during that time period when we were seeing that happen is lenders could literally pick whatever appraiser they wanted. And so they were picking the appraisers they knew would do that. And now they don't have that capability. It's more of a, hey, here's a pool of appraisals that our mortgage company uses, and they're picked around robin out of that company. They don't really have any say on which individual appraiser is being used to appraise the house. So I think that plays a factor in it as well.
All right,
This is
the
a good one.
appraisal gap.
This is a good one.
When a home's value is lower than your offer. So what happens when the appraisal comes in lower than the offer? When you face an appraisal gap, you have the following options. Pay the difference in cash between the appraised value and the amount of your offer. Walk away if you have an appraisal contingency in your purchase contract. Renegotiate with the seller. Request a review of the appraisal if you find inaccuracies. Or apply with another lender in hopes that it will hire an appraiser who values the property in your favor. This article is mostly about the first option, paying the difference. The next option, walking the way, is the least risky. Like a little black dress, it will remain forever in style. So go ahead, Jason.
No, I was just going to say, looking at those options, and I'm trying. Can you scroll back up to what the options were again? I'm trying to find on that actual article, but so I think when we're talking about affordable housing and we're talking about VA buyers and FHA buyers, we have to be careful on that very last one, because a VA appraisal sticks with the home. So you can switch your lender, and if it's a VA appraisal, it doesn't matter if you switch your lender or not. That's still the appraisal you're going to get. So just be careful. It's going to depend on what type of financing you're using based on which one of these we can do. And if number one is in play, then number 2 and 3 are not in play, typically, for the most part. If we're talking about paying a cash difference, then we're using what's called an appraisal gap waiver. And once you're using those, you're giving up number 2 and number 3 unless you use specific language within that appraisal gap waiver to protect yourself on the back end. So.
And I just explained this to a VA buyer earlier today, where the appraisal gap, Jason, what'd you call it? Appraisal gap?
We called appraisal gap waivers.
Waiver. Okay.
Yeah.
Appraisal gap coverage, appraisal gap waiver, and how that makes a VA loan offer more competitive in a competitive market space. I'm passionate about the VA loan. My husband and I bought our first property together in 2016 with a VA loan. So it is possible. It is harder now. And one of the things that I recommend is people get pre-approved conventionally. And when submitting an offer, I include both the conventional pre-approval and the VA approval, so they understand that they are opting to use the VA approval. They're not constrained to use it.
That's a great technique. Yeah, absolutely. I have VA buyers I'm working with right now, and closed numerous VA buyers and FHA buyers last year. So I don't think it's impossible to do. Again, you just have to get creative and have conversations with the other agent involved to make sure they understand everything that's being used in that offer. So there's no questions.
Question. I live in the Maryland area. Harry. Do you remember what the question was, Jason?
I don't remember. I think I'm not sure. I think it was a follow-up to a question that was asked earlier, but I can't remember what the question was.
Thanks everyone for the moderators are doing a great job today. We couldn't do what we do and have our conversations without you.
Love it.
Bliss question: who do you find best to get a home loan? Bank, credit union, or mortgage lenders? Are all mortgage lenders the same? No. Jason seems
No,
passionate about this. I'll let him
no.
take this.
Not gonna, I won't name any names as far as large national lenders, but you know, as a home buyer, I think that I was doing an open house this weekend at one of my properties for sale, and had someone from California who's moving here back to Kansas City. Her parents live here, so she's moving back home to be closer to family, and she can work virtually from her job. So why not come back here? And she said, "Oh, I'm not pre-approved yet. I need to do that." And I asked who she was working with, and she said no one. And I kind of explained the importance, especially in this market, of working with a local lender. And she was like, "Oh yeah, I probably just would have got online and found like a big bank." And rates may be comparable. Again, I think that's going to be dependent on who you're using, and what type of loan, and 30-year versus 15-year. There's lots of variables in there. FHA rates can be lower than conventional rates, so way too many variables on that end of things. But again, going back to what I said earlier, from a listing agent perspective, and I'm 50-50, like literally almost half my sales come from buyers and the other half come from sellers. So I'm almost right down the middle. From the listing agent side, I know that if it's a local lender, it has, in my experience, more of a chance of closing on time with less issues. And from what I've seen, a larger national lender maybe like, well, it's going to close. Yeah, we're a few days late, but it's closed. What's the big deal? And from their perspective, true, it closed. They funded the deal. You got the house. But everyone else involved in the transaction, the person selling the house, the person buying the house, all want the deal to close on time.
Yes.
The person buying the house might have movers lined up, might have friends scheduled to help them. The person selling the house the person selling might need the money from the sale to buy the next house, and that affects the next deal. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. So to my buyers, I can't stress the importance enough of dealing with a local lender that has a good reputation in your community.
Yes. 100%. 100%. Listing agents are savvy and sophisticated, and they know which lenders are going to close on time and which are not. And it drastically affects the likelihood that your offer will be accepted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've even had some of my buyers, if they come in with a lender already before I meet them, I'll try to educate them, but ultimately it's up to you as the home buyer to determine who you want to use. Us as real estate agents have no control over that. But just moving forward, they come in with one. I've had listing agents come back and counter my offer that says, "Hey, listen, we'll take your offer, but we want you to switch lenders to someone else local or switch to this specific lender." And again, while it is up to the buyer, they have to decide if that's something that they're willing to do. Do they want to switch to a different lender and have their offer accepted, or keep the lender they have and move on to the next deal? So
SS question: why aren't the housing market issues being broadcast on the news, and government isn't suggesting any resolutions? How much higher can these costs go? I believe they are being broadcast. I read about it on the market every day. Maybe that's just my news algorithm about housing affordability. Pittsburgh is a very affordable market. Our average home sale is $265,000 a year. I helped people get into homes that were $65,000 this year. They were single family houses, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and they were in good condition. It wasn't a tear down or fall down or anything like that. I think people are and Jason's market is also very affordable.
Yeah, our average is a little higher than that, closer to 300,000, but again, covering 39 counties. We'd have to dive into like county by county, or like the greater metropolitan Kansas City area, which is made up of 5 counties. The further outside you get, that average goes down a little bit. But again, it can be city by city, neighborhood by neighborhood. But again, how much higher can the cost go up? there's a lot of factors involved in that. Again, we've discussed the national, I think, is expected to go up 7.5, and here
Mm-hmm.
locally in Kansas City 9.2.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I don't know. I don't know what'll happen in 2023. So
Mm-hmm. And Kristina and I have been on, and we've been very firm about the fact we don't want runaway prices. It's not good for
oh,
it's not good for people. It's not good for the economy. It creates a lot of strain and pressure in professionals in the industry. I know many people who are wonderful insurance brokers, mortgage brokers, great real estate agents who are burned out, and they're busy, but they're exhausted. And
it's
this
stressful
market,
right now. It
it
is
is.
stressful. Absolutely.
Hugely. So it's not, we want a steady market. We want a market that does appreciate, but not runaway inflation. That's just, it's in everyone's best interest. This
Well,
market is really.
and the higher these prices go, and the faster they do it, the harder it is for our first-time home buyers to be able to afford a house. They're
Mhm,
first-time home buyers that haven't had a house before, maybe are renting, don't have as big of savings,
mhm,
maybe don't have as high paying a jobs yet. Historically, first-time home buyers are earlier on in their career, so maybe not making as much as they would if they had been in that career field for 10 or 20 years.
sure,
So the
sure.
higher the prices go, it's harder for
Mhm.
everyone. So
Bliss question about we buy homes for cash is bombarding me in phone calls, mailings, and more. Oh my goodness. So we buy homes for cash is never going to pay you as much for your property as a local
mm,
real estate investor.
mm,
And if the property condition and your timeline is rapid, you need a local real estate investor to purchase the property. Obviously, if you use a real estate agent to market it properly and get it on the market, then it will go for the most amount of money. But sometimes those timelines don't work. So a quick cash close investor can get you money in 14 or 21 days, depending on how long your lien letters take in your municipality. But we buy homes for cash is just painting with a very broad brush, and they are not in your best equity interest ever. I can confidently say that.
so we had, and not I don't think either one of us, Tanya, are calling out we buy homes for cash specifically. We're just generally saying those
Mm-hmm.
types of programs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we had a situation in our brokerage just a few weeks ago where the homeowner had one of those types of companies come out,
Mm-hmm.
and they were offering them X, and while they were there, the homeowner knew a realtor in our brokerage,
Mm-hmm.
and the realtor happened to be free at the time, wasn't too far away, said, don't say yes until I get there. They pulled up the Cash for Homes company. As soon
Mm-hmm.
as the real estate agent pulled up, their offer price went up $15,000 the second they pulled into
Yep,
the driveway.
that
Like
is real.
literally, we'll give you 15,000 more than we were going to literally 2 minutes ago,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up selling for. They did not go with the cash company. They went with the real
Mm-hmm.
estate agent and ended up selling for like $65,000 more than they were being
Yeah.
offered from the cash
Yes.
company. That's a
The
lot of money.
Bliss, in my professional opinion, and this is only my opinion. These large scale providers are predatory. They prey upon the elderly, the underinformed people, and a local investor is always going to pay the more for your house, always, because their economies of scale are different. And a local real estate agent that works with investors can connect you to them. But
Absolutely.
if you do get them on the phone, tell them that they don't have the permission to contact you, and request that they stop. And then if they don't, report them to your state, anti-can spam act, because that if you've asked people to stop calling you and they're not a debt collector, they don't have the right to continue contacting you. That constitutes harassment. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Anne Marie, you're putting your mother's house up for sale. What should I expect from my real estate agent? She said she will post pictures. What else? Jason.
There's so much that goes into this question, Tanya. Oh my goodness. Um,
Oh, and how long do you have?
right, right. We got at least 30 minutes left, I think. I don't know. First of all, do you know, like, and trust that the agent that you're talking to or about? I think that's a big factor in it. Um, Did you interview more than one agent? I think that's very important to interview multiple agents. And not so much from a commission standpoint, just as far as what are they offering, right? What examples of marketing
Mm-hmm.
can they show?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Personally, I think professional photography is important.
Mm-hmm.
Tanya's seen some of the pictures I've shared with her from our local market that just like just make you shake your head. Um, so I think professional photos are important. I think depending upon if coming soon or pre-MLS is allowed on your market,
Mm-hmm.
is that agent doing that to get your property out in front of more people before you even go active? It's
Yep.
allowed here,
Mm-hmm.
and not every agent does it. I don't understand why. It's this for us. It's the same amount of work to put it in pre-MLS as it is to wait until the day it goes active and put it in that date.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different. You're just able to
Mm-hmm.
market the property that entire time that it's in pre-MLS. So I think marketing is a huge aspect, and I think whatever real estate agent or professional you're working with, you need to ask them what they're
Mm-hmm.
going to do to market the property. And if that answer is put the pictures in MLS and put a sign in the yard, in my opinion, I would be interviewing further agents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a whole bunch. It's drone, it's video, it's coming soon, it's teasers. It is
Hmm.
we have a
Video, video,
feature.
video, right?
Yeah, we have a
Yes.
feature in our MLS where I can get a list. I put a property in and I get a list that is not available to any external website, that's not any iBuyer page or anything like that, of all the agents who have a client who is pre-approved in that neighborhood and in that price point. And do you know what I do? I go old fashioned, Jason. I call, I text, and I email every single one of them over the
So
next
we
9
can't
days.
do that in pre-MLS, but the second it goes live, I have access to that information. So
And
absolutely
it's
start
called
texting those agents and ask them,
mhm,
hey, ours even allows us to
mhm.
see. I don't know who the client is. I know the agent, and it
Yes.
has a specific ID number for the client
Yep.
that only that agent has access to. So I don't
Yes.
have those buyers' information, but it
Yes.
shows me if they put a little heart symbol next to the house, like meaning they've liked it.
Mhm.
Contact that agent and be like, hey, do you know you have a client that's interested in this house?
Yes.
They might not know.
Yep.
You'd be surprised. They might not know. And let's get them in the door.
Christina, I miss you. Thank you for taking over the show today. You are cool on the
Yes.
other side of the pillow. Love you lots. Oh, we miss you. We
Love it.
miss you. Jason says hello. Eddie says
Yes.
hello.
Thank
Eddie
you for
really
having me
misses you.
today.
Eddie looked at me and was like, "What are you doing here? What are you doing in my house?" Kriya and Kid question: will us veterans finally have a fighting chance to use our VA loan benefits once the Fed decides to raise rates? The as is cash only market is killing us right now. Kriya and Kid, Jason and I are getting our veterans offers accepted, and it is through strategy. Number
Uh-huh.
one, we include pre approvals, conventional pre approvals for what they qualify for in their offer. I have the offer summary, is the first thing. And then below that, I have their conventional pre approval. So I'm priming the listing agent's brain to think this is conventional, this is conventional, this is conventional, even when it's not. And then I have the VA loan benefit underneath. And in the sales agreement, I do have the VA in the terms, but in their brain, they're thinking conventional, conventional. So that is what I am doing.
Well,
As
and
is
when we're
means something in
talking,
every market. Go ahead, Jason.
yeah, when we're talking as is, really on the VA side of things, we really only need to be worried about peeling paint,
Yep.
wood rot, and safety issues. That's it.
Mhm.
So if you're using a real estate professional that knows that and knows what to look for, and you're viewing the home to decide if you want to put an offer in, and
Mhm.
you don't see any of those items, you don't see wood
Mhm.
rot, you don't see peeling paint, you don't see safety issues. Not saying that they might not get called out later on. That's a different story. But that's a conversation to have with the listing agent. Hey, I don't see these things being an issue. Therefore, my VA offer is just as strong as else's offer. There's no these things shouldn't be being called out. I have
Mhm.
had, and again, every situation is different. Okay, people's finances are different. Um, if you have uh, if you have some exposable income to use, I've even used a technique where I said, hey, listen, up to a certain amount, right? Up to a certain dollar amount, the
Mm-hmm.
buyer will fix these items that may or may not be called out
Mm-hmm.
by a VA appraiser, right? So if the VA appraiser calls something out or calls a few things out and it's less than $1,000, my buyer will fix those things and pay for those things. Again, you have to be careful because there are different rules and regulations, but so
Mm-hmm.
you have to word it just right. And I'm not like, I'm just going off the cuff here. So, but there is a way to have those things fixed that by the buyer that this would make it more appealing to the seller. So,
Yep, absolutely. It's strategy when it comes to
yep,
VA loans. It is.
absolutely.
Anything can be accepted in this market as long as you're positioning yourself in the correct light. Like I just told you, the first one is gonna be the pre-approval that's conventional.
Yep.
Ah, last question. Bought new construction condo in Indianapolis, 250K, and the rent will be 1,800 to 2,000. After selling 30 units, they sold all the rest of the 50 to one big investor. Should I keep it or should I sell it for 300K? Ooh, that is a great question. That is a great question. Jason, do you want to field it?
I feel like you do more investments than I do. So you bought for 250, but when did you buy it?
Uh-huh.
Right? Like what's I think that plays factor into again going back. Have you been in at
Uh-huh.
least 2 years so you're not potentially paying the
Mhm.
capital gains tax? And I think that's a huge factor.
Mhm.
Um, what do you owe on it at this point, right?
Mhm.
And then why are you wanting to sell? The why is
Mhm.
always a huge issue. Are you just
Mhm.
wanting to sell it to cash out? What are
Mhm.
you trying to do with that money once you have it? Are you wanting to move somewhere else anyway? Then yeah, sell it
Great.
and go move wherever you want to move. I think it just kind of depends on your personal situation there and how long you've been there. Would you agree,
It
Tanya?
depends.
Yeah.
It depends. So, Jason, I've had a wonderful time talking with you
Yes.
and having a great conversation and fielding a million questions going
Yes.
over
It was
articles.
great.
So, if somebody is buying or selling in the KC area, Kansas City, how can they get a hold of you?
I would love for them to reach out either on my YouTube channel or on the website, which I think is getting tossed up right now.
Thanks,
I have a couple
Eddie.
websites. So
Mr. Jason Rains.
yourkcseller.com is one. Or YouTube, if they're looking me up on YouTube, just put your Casey Seller all together,
Mhm.
YOUR KC, right there, just like that screenshot right there. Um,
Mhm.
I do a lot. I do way outside the box marketing, but all my listing videos are in here. So you can see I do parodies and Sasquatch and all sorts of crazy stuff. So, and no,
He's
I
fun.
cannot sing. So don't think you're going to be getting I'm a horrible singer. So, but they're fun.
His voice is like nails on a chalkboard.
The traditional
And
way to get business insurance sucks.
good.
I don't know
Oh,
what that was.
the good is you. The good is you. Parody is so bad. It's so
That all
bad.
ends today.
Yes, but it's all about entertaining, right? So there you go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Reaching people where they are. Let's see. Are we gonna hear Jason's terrible
Oh
voice?
God, this is
It
gonna
it
be bad.
starts out and it's like drone footage and just really amazing stuff. And then we get into oh God.
See the way you're talking about this listing, the way you're talking about her, oh,
So
the way you're staring at
terrible.
these rooms, girl, is all you want in this world. Tomorrow, tonight, the rest of your life, it wants to be the house you want it to be.
Oh my gosh. That's a
I was just getting
sample.
into it. I was gonna sing along with myself.
So if you're in the KC
I got a new
area,
one I'm doing this week. Sam Hunt's. It's Sam Hunt. Breaking up was easier in the '90s. I'm doing a parody off that this week. So
oh my
stay tuned.
goodness. And if you are buying or selling in the Metro Pittsburgh area from Erie down to Washington County, Fayette County, please reach out to me. You can see my website. It is my name.com, Tanya Cool, like the other side of the pillow. And you can learn about me and you can connect with me and see. Those are actually houses that I have sold. And in the videos, those are houses that I've actually sold. It's not just stock footage. So thank you everyone for joining us. I had a great time meeting and connecting with so many people in the chat. So we are gonna wrap it up. So Jason, typically we dance our way out. So Kristina has us dance our way out. So make sure you're dancing.
All right, sounds good. I might be a worse dancer than singer, so I don't know about this.
And if you have any questions at all outside of Pittsburgh or Kansas City, please reach out to the real estate whisperer herself, Ms. Kristina Smallhorn, and she will connect you to a local expert within your market.
Yes.
All
right. See you guys.
Bye.
Good luck
Bye, Jason.
buying and selling.
Good luck.